Hey, this is Johnny Damon, your favorite caveman from the 2004 World Champion Boston Red Sox. You're listening to Boston's Big Three podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 57, Boston's Big Three, presented by Ride the Wave Media. Today, we're sponsored by Pete's Pop. Pete's Pop, located on 151 Benefit Street in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Pete's Pop has the world's most exotic chips, candy, and soda under one roof. Check out their Instagram, Pete's Pop. That's PETEZPOP for the wide selection or to place an online order. Also, make sure you check out Are You Smarter Than Ride the Wave Media? Pete's Pop is the official sponsorship for that. We have Team Ride the Wave. We have all these different guys from Ride the Wave going against 3-on-3s, going against our fans. And stay tuned because very soon we're going to be opening up our second season and it'll be Jeopardy. So I don't know anything about that. Tyler Miller's got all that and we can check it out. And just to show everybody at home, for the viewers there, some things that I got from Pete's Pop recently. We got some Twix. It's, let's see, cookies and cream Twix. Some Lion Bar. I have no idea what that is. Strawberry cream Oreos. Petey's the man. You got to check out Pete's Pop down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Today's episode's a little bit different. Now, we have a special guest on today, and usually when we have guests that come on to Boston's Big Three, we'll do a little 25, 30-minute interview. We snip it inside. No, you know what I said? I said, this woman deserves a full hour. She deserves to have a one-on-one interview. She deserves this time. It's because I think this is going to be somewhat educational, and it will be fun because we'll have some great stories in between, but it's somewhat educational for our viewers and listeners at home that are in high school, that are in college, that want to get into sports journalism, that want to get into sports communication and understand that things aren't just handed to you, understand that it's a grind. And this is a perfect example right here, right now, because on today's show, we have current WEEI co-host or whatever you do at WEEI radio and all that, Courtney Fallon. Courtney Fallon, you can tell them what's up.
What's up? It's a pleasure to be. I mean, listen, this is a long time coming. We did an Instagram live and then boom, you're like, listen, got to have you on the podcast. Got to influence the listeners of the Big Three.
I mean, that Instagram live was awesome. And then your Wi-Fi couldn't handle my hot takes of the Pats going 12-4. It just had to completely shit out on us. But it is okay. And I'm glad I was the main event to the Devin McCourty. You know, you just had a little warm-up appetizer for D-Mac, and then you had the Spike King come right in here.
Oh, yeah. It was planned that way, for sure.
So what we're going to do is we're going to we will skim over some things, but we will track back to your early days, and we're going to set you from when you started to now. And again, this is just an educational process to show in the last, I don't want to date you, in the last 10 years of where you've been from since college to where you are right now. Yeah. But you went to the University of Maryland. What chose you to go there, first of all?
Because Bonnie Bernstein went there. So my story really starts back when I was 14 years old, when the 2001 Patriots miraculously defeated the Rams, 14-point underdogs in the Super Bowl. And I followed that team from the beginning of the season and just became infatuated with every player, every play. I was breaking down the schemes in my head. My brother, my oldest brother, very into football. I mean, he taught me soup to nuts, everything about that I know really about sports. And the 96 Patriots, that's when I really, the fandom really began. But that 01 team, with the Snow Bowl game with the Raiders, and I just knew in my back of my head, I had no doubt that they were going to win that Super Bowl. And then they won, and then the Celtics started to become good, 02, 03, and then, the Red Sox in 2003. So it snowballed from there. And I just had always, since a little girl, ever since I was a little girl, I used to sneak downstairs when I was 10 years old and grab my parents' phone because I used to want to call into, do you remember Deirdre DeGata on 94.5 Jammin'?
Yeah.
She had the nighttime show. And she started at 10 or something, and I used to sneak downstairs to try to call in, and I had my cassette tape. I would record my voice. I don't know what, that was just always something that I loved to do. And I became obsessed with sports radio. And I cunningly used to call myself into school, pretend like I was my mother, and say Courtney Fallon won't be here for 2 periods a day. And for those 2 periods, I would get my Dunkin' Donuts and drive around listening to Dennis and Callahan. That's where it began. And then I started calling in, and they were telling me at the time, granted, this is about 15 years ago, but at the time, the producers, when I would call the show, they said, "You're a woman, you're not allowed on air, you have to be 18." Eventually I did get through. I wrote my college essay about it, and that kind of was it. I made the decision, myself and my mother really made the decision when I was 16 years old, that I was going to be the sideline reporter and the sideline of an NFL game.
Yep.
I wanted to be Bonnie Bernstein with the matching hat and the gloves. And I went to Maryland strictly because of that. Also, I wanted to get the hell out of Massachusetts. It was the people were getting stale, and it although Maryland at the time didn't have a broadcasting track that was with TV studios. I mean, as I graduated, I remember looking at Taws Hall with this huge multi-million-dollar investment that they got from one of the alumni to build the TV studios again, because they needed to compete with Syracuse. Syracuse was that or nothing. So I did it through experience, and I'm so glad that I did.
I want to talk about that too, because in that 01, even going back to 96, but even to 01, because of 99 with the Sox as well, Boston sports is really starting to come on that come up.
Lauren Malloy, Kevin Falk. I mean, you got Wiggy on that team. You got, Troy Brown. It was the Brady season. It was.
But everybody now is trying to get their hands in the pot in terms of being, hey, you know what? I want to get into sports. This is what's driving me. So now it's ultra competitive. And also it's a male driven, type of field. And that's what it is. And I think what you just said right there, that little story of, you can't call because you're a female and you have to be over the age of 18. That didn't discourage you. It just makes you want it even more. And it just makes you be like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm still going to go at this. It's not going to discourage me, which is just a point to any female listeners out there, anybody out there that wants to do it. Do not be discouraged at that. You got to keep grinding going forward. At your time at University of Maryland, what are some of the internships that you had, or some of those, let me get my foot in the door, because everyone needs their foot in the door? What are one or two things that are memorable that sticks with you?
2 things that are memorable. The first one was I landed my first job internship in anything. The first nugget of experience was I was chosen as one of 5 interns at Sirius NFL XM Radio in New York City. That class also of those interns also included John Jastrzemski, who was one of the main hosts for WFAN in New York. It was a really, really proud moment for me. And I interviewed with them cold. And I went in there and, after that meeting, he loved me. But this guy, Doug Mortman, he said in January, I said, listen, I really want this internship. And he said, all right, well, you have to write me a letter, write me an email in the next semester and tell me why you believe that you deserve this and why you would be a good fit. And it just so happened I was studying abroad in Australia. And at the time, that was when they first lost to the Giants. My roommate was a Giants fan. I knew right away that this was going to be a really big point of contention for me when I was going to New York City with every Giants fan in the building to work alongside a bunch of guys, testosterone-filled environment, and they knew I was a Patriots fan. So I was going to get it every day. So I wrote him a letter and I said more or less that this was the reason and the purpose that, I could sit on my laurels and I could close my computer like I did that semester and shut out the world. I mean, granted, I was on the other side of the world. It was easy for me to do that, but I said, I can sit down and, I can just, take that. The Giants beat my favorite Patriots and they were favored and, the helmet catch and all that stuff. But, I know because I'm a woman that I'm going to need to defend myself. I'm going to need to know how to defend myself. I need to thicken my skin. I need to tighten my armor and go to battle, so to speak, in the trenches. I mean, I would say sports radio or any radio entity, a lot of it is pretend it's a boxing ring. It's back and forth. And even when you're jarring at a caller, you got to come back with something. It's not like a set scripts, like you're standing in the studio. It's very different. It's very difficult. But I said that I was up for the challenge, and I landed the job. It was one of the best summers of my life. And I came back to Maryland, and the second internship that I had in college, the second and final one, was at ESPN 980 in DC. They're the home of the Washington Redskins. I spent 220 internship hours at a 4-credit internship in Rockville, Maryland. I grinded. Like, yeah, it's not only just cutting tape and listening to Colin Cowherd during the day. I knew how to file and cut tape and that stuff, but just the man hours alone. And I wasn't really well loved by my superior guy, the guy who was in charge. I didn't really know how to interview. I had to interview Gary Williams on campus, and the first question that I ever asked in an interview was about missing free throws. And he chewed me out. But yeah, no, I was told after that internship that I would never make it in this business, that the Washington Nationals, which they wanted to hire me as I speak Spanish. They wanted to hire me as a Spanish speaking reporter for ESPN 980, just to do some interviews in the summer. They said that they didn't want me. And the guy said, he looked at me and he said, "You're never going to make it. You're just going to go back to New England, and you're going to go cover your little Cape Cod baseball team and be a little Cape Cod baseball reporter. And that's it." And what do you think that I did after college? I went home and I landed 2 jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into that in a second. I think too, I like to nitpick off of the things you're saying here, because I think another thing that the kids that should listen to is, look at how you're opening your mind and going to work for, say, Washington, D.C. Now you start covering the Redskins and Nationals.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell those people, that are big Boston sports fans, go cover somewhere else. Look at one of the biggest guys out there right now that works for Sports Hub named Mike Felger. He's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's a Packers fan.
Albert Breer was the first person that told me when I first came back, and I got, they knew my name, and no one really respected me in this city. I just was always the one that they knew. I was just, I was a lot of talk, and I barked big, and they stole my ideas, and they didn't give me any respect, really, even when I went to Providence for my first TV job. And Albert Breer looked at me dead in the face. He goes, "Listen, Courtney, you see where I am right now?" He said, "I worked in this region, and then I left and I went to work for the Dallas Cowboys. And when I came back, I was the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And don't respect you in this town. And it also, until you leave and come back."
Yeah.
And it's also creating so much variation. I mean, different learning a new market and learning from scratch, as I did in Miami and in Los Angeles, and then nationally. I mean, that just goes a long way. You really have to commit yourself to say, I am not going to be stuck just based on this one market, even though it is more familiar to me. Getting out of your comfort zone is one of the hardest things that a young reporter has to overcome.
But doing that shows experience and shows those that are above you, like, okay, this person left this and not going to be some sort of biased reporter. They went out and tried doing something different. And I think that's rightfully so. If you have any words to those students right now that are in college, that are going for sports communication, any advice that you give to them, what would it be?
Your network is your black book. It's your ticket. Networking is my middle name. And when I tell you that I joined Twitter 11 years ago, I joined Twitter 11 years ago, and I was a baseball blogger. I had a name. I was the Sox Fox. I used to sit and I used to watch Red Sox. Yeah. Jared Carabas from Barstool?
Yeah.
He started on a website called Soxheads, truefans.com. We were video bloggers. He did the Red Sox. I thought he was a Yahoo, who's a scrawny ass little kid who wrote a book. And I was like, this kid's a loser. But now look at him. That's how compound interest and a network. How I built my network and how people knew me was from my Twitter name. To get in the mentions, I mean, don't harass people. Also, don't do that. There's nothing ratioing people, and any form of cyberbullying is absolutely stupid, and you can just sit back and laugh at the people that do that. But networking, constantly pestering, replying to to the major reporters, the Mike Reeses, even the shows, the Dale and Keefe's, the Beetle and Zoe, this Felger and Maz show. Get your name out there. And when you go and you finally get to go to one of these events, I mean, if we ever have events, sporting events again, you need to go and you need to walk up to them with a confident hand and introduce yourself. It takes people aback, especially nowadays where we just seem to hide behind a computer screen. I was introduced to Dan Shaughnessy back in that summer before I was hired, and he's really the reason that I started anything. He took me on a networking trip. I knew his son, so he brought me to the Boston Globe, and then he said, all right, now we're going to go to Comcast, which is NBC Sports Boston. He did a hit there. I brought copies of my resume, and I met Mike Felger, and I shook him in the hands, and I said, oh, here's my resume. Remember me. I met Gary Tangway. I met all the people, and then we went to Fenway Park, and I continued to do that. And people remember. If being on a first name basis with someone, they might not remember you, but make sure, don't be offended if they forget who you are. Yep. Just, continue, be persistent. And when you build that black book up, trust me, those connections, they go miles and miles. Again,
I agree.
Networking is my middle name.
I agree. So you take it from someone like you and more of a professional standpoint that went to school, that built it up, and take a look at someone like me that has been building his network up in his own way. I didn't go to school for this, and I'm learning everything on my own. And I am someone that pisses a lot of people off, and a lot of people give me dirty looks, and I know those people out there. And in my mindset, that makes me competitive. You should always have that competitive edge, because in your mindset is that I'm a woman and people are going to treat me and put me down that way, and they say they're never going to make it. You know what people do? The same thing to me. Well, not because I'm not a woman, but it's just like, hey, you're just a nobody. You didn't go to school for this. You're just a loudmouth SOB that wears eye black and blah, blah, blah. And you got to use that killer instinct in your mind. Same way like Tom Brady or MJ has something. That documentary was perfect because he always had something that he could use to his advantage. And I think everybody needs that. Building up your network is so important. Like you said, do not be afraid to go up to somebody. Be courteous, be respectful. You might see me.
A good handshake goes so far. You shake your hand and you look at them dead in the eye. And when I learned that in high school for some reason, how to properly handshake. Don't look down at the hand. You put your hand out, you shake them, and you look at them in the eye. And you make your presence felt.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, you'll see me like yelling at my phone, doing something. The second the phone goes off, and hey, hi, how's it going? My name is Brian. Like, what's your name? And you kind of have that, and they go like, holy smokes, you went from here, but then you're down to here, and being professional, because you never know where people are gonna end up going, that you might need them or they might need you down the line. Always keep that network open, and I think that's very key. In those 4 years that you're at college, build a network, build that black book, as you said. Mm-hmm. You come out of college, out of the University of Maryland, you come back home to Boston, and you become one of the first or the first female voice of the brand.
And only now, outside of Trinity.
Outside of Trinity at 98.5, the Sports Hub, back in 2009, and you spent 8 months there. Can you talk about your time at Sports Hub and your departure as well, too?
Yeah, so I was hired at the brand new station. I mean, this was back in a time, 2009, where FM radio was non-existent. It was all on the AM radio waves. It was a radio station in WEEI that was dominated for the last 25 years. And I think that Chad Finn from the Boston Globe wrote a really fantastic piece about 1510 The Zone and the talent roster that they had there. I mean, they had Michael Smith and Felger and Ryan Russillo. And all of these things. If for anyone, just go and Google that article, because no one could compete. No one could take down WEI. They lost all their viewership, and this was the big kahuna. And CBS Sports Radio decided to come in and create a brand new station, and I landed a spot doing headlines. And I worked at a restaurant from 4 to midnight, and then from midnight to 3 a.m. Right after the DA show, Damon Amendolara, I was actually doing headlines over the national headlines. And I did that for 8 months. It was, you want to talk about earning your dues. I was earning my dues because that went from midnight to 3 a.m. to midnight to 6 a.m. So my departure, it was more or less that I was burnt out. And I wanted to get into television. And that was kind of the next step, was that I knew I needed to get into TV and out of radio. And being a news writer at WHGH was the next step. And I knew that.
And that's the important thing too, is you're not just gonna have one job and get it. You had two jobs you're juggling. You might have three jobs you're juggling, plus family, plus your social time, plus everything else. And it just shows, again, the grind and the commitment that you have to put in. And you're putting in your dues, because then when you look back at it, you can be like, look at how much I was juggling, and just see that this is why I'm a step ahead of everybody else. Yeah. When you're skipping some time here, and we're skipping WHGH, it's about, again, going outside the box, just like you did down in DC. You went outside the box again, and you went down to South Beach. You went to South Florida. You spent some time in Miami, and you got a big smile on your face because you go from the cold weather of Boston. You're like, I get my escape yet again. You go down to Miami. Talk to us about your time spent down in Miami and what you did down there.
Miami was the best time of my life, the best time of my career. I have a big smile on my face because I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It still sticks out. And I mean, in my mind, it transformed me. Right before it, I was working for a really small radio station, ABC6. I replaced a 15-year veteran in their sports department. They all wanted to go to, one-man bands, shooting in your camera. I was, disliked by my superiors. When am I not disliked? This is the thing. I pissed a lot of people off, I guess. So I worked I covered the Patriots. I mean, I put in my dues before I went to Miami. I covered the Patriots as many opportunities as I could. And I carried my own 30-pound tripod, 20-pound camera, set up those interviews, and I would, figured out a way to set it and forget it and record Belichick and then start asking him questions. So really the preface of everything that happened later in my career really was put in with those days and those hours in Providence. And then when I went to Miami, I jumped 40 markets. I was at a major TV station at NBC. And it was all the glitz and the glamour that you can imagine. I mean, it was hard ass work. I put like 40,000 miles on my car, driving everywhere. But you had the Miami Heat championship that I covered, soup to nuts. Game 6, the shot, Ray Allen, Game 7. I was there for all of that. I had 4 stories that went national, feature stories. One of them you can actually Google. You just say Craig Sager, NBC6. I did a feature where the late, great Craig Sager, rest in peace, welcomed me into his hotel room. He used to get all his crazy suits made personally in Miami. Baby Birdman, if you remember that story. And those are all stories that I enterprised myself. I was friendly with Craig, and I asked him, I said, hey, wouldn't that be so awesome if I could do that? Hey, come to my hotel room. Hey, you call up the tailor and you go and drop by. Baby Birdman story, which got picked up by ESPN, was something that I found through Instagram. My friend tagged me in something, and he said, have you seen this guy? Oh my God, I would love to have it be on TV. I arranged this through the Heat at the NBA Finals. The Richie Incognito scandal and with the Miami Dolphins, where all of a sudden, we had this massive bullying scandal of him and Jonathan Martin, and we had 100 reporters in our locker room on a Wednesday. And, people are the gasping and the shocks when Ryan Tannehill speaks to the media and says Richie and John are actually friends, and they don't believe it. But I was the local reporter that knew who had the good sound bites. So people, I knew the story, and people followed me. And that was amazing. Covering the University of Miami. The list goes on and on and on. And the local feature vibe on a big stage. I had a producer who pushed me so hard. When I tell you that he pushed my ass so hard, the first real live shot that I had was opening night for the Heat and the Celtics. And I did a stand-up about Doc Rivers and the Celtics. And he called me back. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you seriously? You work for a Miami station. What is this? He lost his mind. He was like, if you fucking do this shit again, excuse me. He's like, if you do this again, He's like, I will fire you. I'm not kidding. I will have you dismissed. He goes, if I have to shake the Homer Boston out of you, I will. And from that point on, I mean, it was all systems go. Studying everything Miami. I was a Miami girl. I transformed. Devin McCourty even jokes about me that I liked the Dolphins over the Patriots at the time. I really changed my colors, and it was the best time of my life. Just the experience, everything. It's amazing.
It's a lot
And
of
I was
learning.
25 years old. I was super young. And I mean, listen, like just like New England, Miami, they love their local news anchors. So I mean, like I had like people stopping me in the street. I was like, what?
Little
I
celebrity.
was like, I'm not. And I'm used to like this, podunk station where we used to get hashtags, hash marks in Providence. And I would have to say that, obviously my humility comes first, but I mean, that just really helped my confidence to say that I would say something, I would open my mouth and people would listen. And it was great.
I think another important aspect and a fold out of that is the stories are always out there. It's that you have to go find them and you have to put them together because
And
just like that.
Not be afraid to say, like, keep a list. I was just telling this girl who works at NBC. I told her, my friends who are my Miami movie producers, Billy Corbin and Alfred Spellman in Miami, who made Cocaine Cowboys and a number of different documentaries, they keep an active list in a notebook, just like this or just like this. And they literally have a list, and that says, these are all the stories that I want. And if you've comes to your mind, write it down because you never know. Screwball, the story about A-Rod and the biogenesis scandal, they kept getting like bombarded with more information and they kept writing it and updating their list. And they're like, holy shit, like we have enough for a documentary here. And now it's one of the best docs on Netflix. Making sure that you are not afraid to go and pursue that story. If you get a door slammed on you, that's okay. Just keep going.
Yeah. I was going to say like an example of, at Ride the Wave was last year, say, getting sound bites. Sometimes it's just you going up to an individual and just saying one little question and you might get the sound bite that goes viral. So an example is we had these two kids, they were called like Red Line Sports Media or whatever. And they were just up and coming. They come to me like, Babs, like, we want some help. Like, can you get us interviews? And I said, come to the Mass Pirates game. Cordell Patterson and Jonathan Jones are going to be there. I'll get you media passes, but it's going to be you to go up to them and go get the question. I said, ask them one question and be professional about it. Don't like trip them up on anything. I say that to anybody that I ever interview. I'm never going to trip you up on something. I'm never going to catch you because I want to, always want to be on their good side. One of them went up to Cordell Patterson and was just like, what do you think the Super Bowl meant to you? And Cordell said it doesn't mean shit to me. Yeah. And just had one quote. That one quote went viral. And these little kids that don't even, not little, but they're like teenagers that are just starting this little company, have a viral sensation that's reaching almost 1 million people. And they actually got sent a cease and desist letter because they said you have Red Line Sports Media, like it's already owned and they got to, and I was like, that's a great learning experience. So that's what you need to learn. You need to look
don't be afraid to make mistakes for sure.
Cordero Patterson was the one who made the mistake. You didn't make the mistake. He just gave you a sound bite to go off there or something like that. But yeah, don't be afraid to go out there. Don't be afraid to right now in quarantine life too is the perfect time that should make or break people. And one of our guys, Tyler Miller, was just getting on some of the guys that we work with and saying, if you want to go somewhere, a lot of these future employers are going to say, what did you do during the quarantine? Like, what were you doing something different, like with all the time that you had for free instead of playing video games all day? This is a perfect time where athletes out there, like you say, you could do some really unique, like shoe collections, as shoes are like so hot. Sneakers are so hot. Talk to athletes about their sneaker collection. Write blogs about that. You never know that. Hey, ESPN sees that. Oh, we want that. We want to take that.
They're not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was great. So you go to Miami. You go to NFL now. You're going to NFL Network. Talk us into that's the big kahuna. That's the big one. Everyone wants to work for the NFL. Everyone wants to get their foot in the door there. And you even told me, because we were talking on the IG Live, you had Nate Burleson came in and chimed in. It was interesting seeing some of these check marks coming in there and chiming in every so often. So
yeah.
And you had a little relation there with Good Morning Football. Talk to us about your NFL Network experience.
So I first interviewed at NFL Network when I was 26. It was for their morning show called NFL AM. I was very young. It was very, very young. To be
It's,
co
and you interned correctly? Correct
No,
for the
no,
no,
I never
okay. You got
interned with them.
okay, okay.
I auditioned for a job.
Auditioned, okay.
I
How many people
auditioned.
did you have to compete with to get that job?
It was actually Mark James, who's co-host at WEEI. He
Yeah.
auditioned for that show. It was a very random round table of, they did it right. They hired NBC Row and they did it right with Good Morning Football in terms of the people. You have the insider, you have the funny man, you have the former athlete, and then you have the woman. That's more or less. But I mean, it was a rolling. I mean, that was one of the wildest audition days that I've ever seen. I mean, it was, we were mixing and matching with different people. It was just kind of a shit show. But anyways, so yeah, I auditioned with them. I didn't get the job. I came back. I was on their radar though, and I always said my goals after Miami were, and this is, I wanted to be an NFL, a sideline reporter in the sideline of an NFL game. I want to be a correspondent at NFL Network, like Albert Breer. He's a very good mentor of mine now with Sports Illustrated, or I wanted to be a reporter for long form storytelling at E60, and I found out I was a terrible sideline reporter. I was not good at it. It's not the same, not traditional. There are many great sports sideline reporters. I wasn't one of them. And if the NFL was everything that I wanted, I kind of just gave up. I just spoke X's and O's. I lived, I ate, I breathed football. And I devoted my life to getting that job. And it took me a little bit. I was brought in to do some on-site draft stuff when they had the draft in Chicago. And then I moved back to New York and I got the job. I had to get back on TV. So I would travel from New York to go work at Fox 25 on the weekends just to get some tape back. And I landed my dream job. And when I tell you that coming back to New England, as I said, that time, people remember who you are. People remember what you do. When I walked into that building, the day that I got the job, and I couldn't tell anyone until it was announced, and I was walking in with Tom Curran, I'll never forget this, and we were checking in for our credentials, and I was like this, and I was like, Tom, I have news. I was like, I just got the job. I go, I'm the Patriots insider for NFL Network. Like, and I just was glowing. And he looks at me, he goes, you know what? You did it the right way. Like, you did it the right way. And a lot of the players that were there during those years in Providence, they saw me. And like, still to this day, the coaches, the PR people, they still to this day, they say, I will never forget the days when you were in heels and you were busting your ass, and coming back and being the Patriots insider for NFL Network was, it was a dream come true. And it was just so fun. Just the camaraderie within that building, although being at that building is a little different just because it's such a tight space. But I mean, the correspondents, we were all just a big family. Big family, big there to support. And it's amazing that most of the people who are reporters on that staff were women. More of the majority were women, and they were hard-nosed women. You got Stacey Dales, who, she was a famous sideline reporter for years, was, a WNBA player. Then you have Kim Jones, who covered the Yankees for years, who is no one to mess with. You have Judy Batista, who is handpicked by Roger Goodell as his reporter, one of the more respected, knowledgeable reporters at 345 Park from the commissioner. So you're surrounding yourself not only with knowledge, but intelligence. And it was a great time. And then Good Morning Football started, and I was their first morning correspondent. I reported, and I started traveling around for Thursday Night Football. It was amazing. And then when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, with Patriots won the Super Bowl, it was what was it, 2016? I believe 2016. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl in 2016. I was hosting the 8-hour parade on Cambridge Street. It
Would you
was
say
fantastic.
would you say that was your highest point? Like, what was the highest point of your time with the NFL in that sense? And what was your low? And what was your lowest point? What was the point? Because you said your sideline reporting, you didn't really like it, and it was something.
Yeah.
What's your lowest that point where you're like, I really screwed this up, or I really looked dumb, and
Yeah.
never.
I would say the short turnarounds in the travel, me having to be in one city one day, and then I had to be in Jacksonville. I had to be in Nashville this day, and I had to be in Jacksonville the next day. And I mean, you're exhausted. You're fighting everything that you can, tooth and nail, and you got to do a report. And I botched one of the reports one day. I stuttered. I froze. It was really hard for me to do it, and so they kind of had to like say like, okay, we might have to pull you back just a little bit. And, some of the reports and the travel was brutal. And they say that it's not a life to be a correspondent. It is not a life that you want to live. You have no social life. There was one point that I was gone for 2 weeks, 2 full weeks. I was in 4 different cities, Monday through Thursday. I was in one city, and then I was in another city on the weekend. And I came back to unpack and repack. And I think that there was a point in time, this is in November, in the grind of the season, that I got to my hotel room and I just started bawling. I cried hysterically, and I was like, I have no life. Like, there is no one that loves me back in New York. I can't see my friends. I can't have a relationship, and I'm helpless because they put you there. You're a professional. No one's there. This is not like high school or middle school, or where your elementary school teachers, your guidance counselors check in on you. If you fall on your face, you fall on your face. And then a lot of people will want to run you over and kick you out the door because you fall on your face. So a lot of people in this business will root for you to fail. Yeah. So it's up to you to recognize that and to make sure that you're keeping your own, and to not get so, anxious in your head, because during the whole playoff run, they put all the seniors, the veterans ahead of me. That upset me. The Patriots were in the Super Bowl. I wasn't allowed to go to Houston. I had to beg for that, that role to be with James Palmer on the, to host the Super Bowl parade. It's not easy. And when you get to the top, it's just a continued steep climb, and you have to demand a lot of yourself. But what was the best? I would say, the Super Bowl parade. And I would also say, Training Camp Live, the beginning of August. I mean, I did 11 hits throughout the day. For over 8 hours, I did 11 hits, and I mean, I was flying. Like I was flying through it. It was Mike Robb is messaging this, like, oh my God, you are a new girl. You're so good. Like, I mean, I came out with a bang, and that was awesome. But everyone evens out a little bit. So I would say those two things. That was my dream job.
I think if people don't really understand, they need to understand what you just said there about pretty much living out of your suitcase, and it's the absolute grind. And even if you're, wow, I want to work because I want to travel and this and that, you're traveling, but it's not like you're exploring around the cities and having a fun time. You're working. You are absolutely working. And what sticks out to me is someone like Mike Reese. Every so often, Mike Reese and who's the other one that does Patriots for Mike Girardi. Mike Girardi will post every so often. He's in a small little closet room, and he's got his lighting set up, and he's got like a fan over here, and he's getting ready to go on TV. And it doesn't look like the flashy lifestyle. It's really not.
Not glamorous.
It just should show you that even when you want it, and even when you get there to a point, you still have to climb for more. And there are people nipping at your heels at all time, willing to take you down at any moment possible.
Even my agent at the time, he was trying to take me down too. Surprisingly, I mean, that's what sucked the most. It was like, I remember getting a call from him in Nashville. I was like, hey, can you help me out with this? And he said, not really, because he got a call from someone else who was heard that, that I had messed up the week before, and that they wanted to replace me. So my agent told me, I mean, like, and women especially, don't trust anyone. I was told this piece of advice, and I would say this with a whole heart, is that don't trust anyone in this business. Don't trust your mentors. Don't trust anyone, not even your brother. there is no one that won't cut you down. And I've learned that so many times, and it's such a hard lesson to learn. Even the people that you believe are the closest people to you, they will take you down. And they have, and they'll betray you. So just, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself mentally. There was a lot of mental fortitude that's required by my job to maintain a lifestyle and continue going. And I found myself at the hard times not really able to rely on other people or just information, advice going in one ear and out the other. There's hard times and then there's euphoric times. I don't mean to like put the damper on things, because
but you're being real. You're absolutely being real out there. And like,
yeah, I mean,
I wanted to hit on the same thing.
When you get to a national level,
yeah,
it's microscope.
I was gonna say the same thing. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Don't trust anyone. Trust yourself. You gotta trust yourself. Even if you are wrong and everyone around you says you're wrong, and you might fail, pick yourself right back up. I actually wanted to stem off a quick question too. You said about your mental well-being and that you always have to, find yourself into that place to get yourself back up. What are things that you have done when you felt down and out that you did to help yourself, whether it's meditation or your getaways, or reading, or, I don't know, spa days? What did you do that's your thing to get yourself back up into speed?
The key to broadcasting is breathing. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but breath is also what calms the mind. It's an essential part of everything that you should be doing. And that's why meditation is heavy on that. That's why yoga is heavy on breathing. I at least now I'm just in a very, very calm and happy state in my life, because I am taking care of myself. How do I get back? Eating right is the first thing. When I eat like shit, I feel like shit. And when I tell you, whether it's gluten, whether it's cheese, whether it's a pizza, whether it's mozzarella sticks, I will guarantee have a terrible, terrible day the next day, because the stuff that you put in your body, it sinks into your body and then it sinks into your mind. Being able to go outside for a walk, do 30 minutes of exercise. I know it's play 60 in the NFL, but 30 minutes of exercise a day. Even if you're just going out and listening to music, sometimes turning off the music, turning off your phone, turning off of, the distraction. I find myself wanting to, anxious and flipping through songs and trying to find the right song and, and then scrolling Instagram. It's such a getting out of that routine and meditation. I don't know if anyone knows, if you don't know how to meditate, I would download a Headspace app. But Insight Timer is one of my favorite apps, and it really changed a lot of how I feel nowadays. It changed a lot of my mental aspects, and I would say that I've reached a point of happiness that's bigger than anything because of meditation and breathing.
Obviously, my life is a lot different than the news reporter life, but I do see some similarities and parallels, because over the last 2 years to 3 years, I told myself I want to build a brand, and that's what I've been trying to do. And in terms of building a brand, I had to travel to all these Patriots games to show face, and that traveling does take a wear and tear. Yeah, it's fun, like you're going out there and you're boozing and have a fun time, you're a fan, but I'm also trying to grab content, edit content, put like articles together, put all these certain things together, meet here, meet there. And it's actually not easy, and it's really draining, as you said, mentally draining. And the importance of eating right, it's so huge, because I've gained like 30 pounds like over the last like year and a half just because of the traveling. Exercise, doing a little cardio in the morning, get yourself going, get your mind right, shut the phone off.
Jumping jacks. I don't even, I'm telling you, like those are crucial, and it's essential. And when you're on the topic of, doing stuff and editing things on the road, I took a trip to Israel 2 years ago with 7 NFL players, Josh Norman, Chris Harris, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, Vic Beasley, and the Schwartz brothers, Mitch, who just won Super Bowl, offensive lineman for the Chiefs, and Jeff, who's in media. And it was really my job that I kind of hired myself, but this whole company hired me to edit and produce and shoot content. And I had a story that was picked up by the Washington Post, and it was about this Redskins super fan, and she was in love with Josh. And I mean, I slept 3 hours a night because I had to stay up and, and edit for 5 hours to edit that piece and put it online and reach out to contacts. And, I would say time management. I'm not really the best at time management, but really utilizing your time and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. If you can't sleep on planes and you can't read on planes, then don't read on planes. Make sure that you when you get to your hotel room, then that's where you do your research. Don't walk into any situation on air, even if it's on any podcast, without prepping. Preparation should be an essential part of everything that you do.
Oh, 100%. Like when I come on these podcasts, even something as low key as something like this, and I know a lot of people out there doing their own podcasts and they're trying to do something on their own. There are sometimes I mail it in, I come in, I just blabber on. There are other ones that I will take the time to do some analytic research, do whatever it has to do,
Sure.
and they sound 1,000 times better when I play them back because it sounds like you know what you're doing. You sound a little bit more professional, and that's the right way. We got to move on a little bit more here. You're back now. You're back here. You're back home. You're put. Your WEEI. What do you do for WEEI?
Well, it kind of happened out of networking, actually. I flew to the Super Bowl in Atlanta, not this year, but last year. I had no agenda. Obviously, the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but I went there to network. And I had to happen to be on Radio Row. The 98.5 people were just being kind of rude. And I felt really welcome on the OMF show. And I was sitting at their table just because I needed to rest. I needed to put my bag down. I needed to drink water. And Joey Zarbano was there. And I remember Joey Zarbano was I was a writer for the website, or so, I forget what he was, years ago. And then he handed me, all of a sudden, we were just chit-chatting, and he handed me a business card and he said, I'm program director now. And I was like, excuse me. So that was an in. That was, that came out of nowhere. And if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have come back from Los Angeles in the middle of August or the beginning of August. It literally, my first shift on air, I called him out of the blue. I was out to dinner with my parents and I said, hey, do you have any if you need anyone on the radio, I'm here. And he called me back and he goes, actually, I do. Can you work tomorrow? And it was right after Andrew Luck retired. So there I was, boom, back on radio. And it felt like I was flying. I hadn't done radio in really 8 or 9 years. I had a podcast and I had been sending Joey my podcast earlier in the year. And so I kind of got I got my training wheels there. And then as things happen, I was like, you know what, my voice is only known. It's not only known, it's known most as, the voice of the Patriots or someone who relates information about the Patriots. That's what I realized my audience was. And I moved back and, it took a little bit. It took in the fall. I mean, I was filling in around Thanksgiving. I was filling in around Christmas, but January 1st came around. I mean, boom, they threw me into the fire. It was like mud at night. I'm a co-host. I'm a guest. So I was, I co-host with Mott on one of the nights that he has, a bunch of people on during the week, and every night is a separate night. And then I was pinned to do a food radio show that they handpicked me to do this, to the host with Greg Hill. And then they were throwing me on the Sunday Drive, which was huge. Myself and Mark James and myself and Wiggy. I wasn't solo hosting, but I was getting down to it where right before the quarantine, right before everything shut down, I mean, it was just, this is what, you have to take the punches and you have to understand that in life, things are going to happen. But I mean, I was flying, I was probably at my best in those times. And I still love it. I'm still working at EEI, but they're, restrictions for quarantine and part-time people.
I'm gonna talk about that in a second, and I completely forgot I'm supposed to do a jersey giveaway, and I was supposed to do that halfway through the podcast. So we're gonna do it right now. I'm letting the comments roll up. For those that are unaware, yesterday or whatever day you end up hearing this, one day I posted on my Instagram that I'm doing a jersey giveaway. All you had to do is subscribe to Boston's Big Three. You had to go subscribe to us on Apple, and you could subscribe to us on Spotify and YouTube as well. This is where we're on all 3 platforms, and of course my phone's not working right now, and I should have had this up a little bit earlier. Oh, there we go. So I'm picking a winner right now that I know that everyone's been tagging us. So I am picking right here, Vic Vickistahh. Vickistah. Vickistah. You have won a jersey of your choice. I am screenshotting this. You just got to DM me, show me that you listened to us and that you have just won that jersey. So awesome. Congratulations. A little give back right there. I screwed that up. I made you all listen for 48 straight minutes. It was all a ploy the entire time.
I think honestly, a lot of people are asking and they're like, wow, is Kyle Duggar? Well, first of all, they just did sign him today.
Yeah.
They hadn't signed him yet, but they're like, is Kyle, like, what number if I'm going to get a jersey? I feel like everything's turning over. Listen, you got to go classic. My first Patriots jersey was a Rodney Harrison jersey. And when he got hurt and he tore his ACL, I hung that shit over my bedroom in college. I really wish, I want to find out if I still have that jersey. Go with the classics. I mean, go with the classic McCourty. You're still going to have a classic Brady jersey, or like maybe Troy Brown, a good 80. I mean, he was the best 80 out there. Who else?
This newer generation doesn't respect the older generation.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Like, here's the thing: it takes a lot to invest. I learned this from my friends, the Dolphins. They're like, who the hell are we gonna have on our jerseys? We're not that good. There's a lot of turnover. So
I just wrote down a name, and I'm gonna get to that in a second because we are gonna go retro. But first, I want to go back to WEEI. So I did ask this question off air, and you don't have to answer. I'm not going to poke the bear here. I'll poke it on my own end. What's WEEI doing in the next 5 years to try to get ahead of the Sports Hub? The way I look at it, I'm a younger viewer. I'm 28 years old. I cater to an audience that is like between the ages of 12 and 21. These are high school and college kids. The way I look at Sports Hub, I mean, they're flashy. They have the money to be able to go on Comcast Sportsnet.
They're owned by the same company. Both of us are owned by
Entercom.
CBS. They're CBS, but we're Entercom.
Okay. So is there any sort of way that WEEI is going to say, hey, we're going to make a push, or they're always going to play the B line of like, we're just a B line show? No,
I mean, here's the first thing is that I'll tell you is that the negativity of the people that used to work at the station, I think we all know who that is. And listen, there's going to be upheaval, and I've had that come at me. I'm very close to John Dennis, Jerry Callahan. The people and the negativity, it's almost it's not passe. That's not the word. It's almost in style to criticize and say that WEI's product is awful and this and that, and going after Joey Z and going after management. The thing that really is upsetting is that the parent company, Entercom, has not really done so well during this entire pandemic. And it ultimately comes from them, the money and, the green light for a lot of projects. And I brought in a project. I mean, if we had unlimited budget, I had, a whole idea about it. I wanted to create a digital network for WEI. And my good friend Joy Taylor, she has, for FS1, she has the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast. She and I developed basically a very similar concept that I would do with WEI. Pandemic happened. There is no money. There's no money. And unless you have money, you're not going to get anywhere. I don't think it's EEI's fault. It's not anyone's fault. And to be honest, I don't think 98.5 outside of Felgren, Mass, I don't think 98.5 really competes as much in terms of content wise as WEEI.
They don't.
I know, but I mean,
I know they don't.
I'll give that to you. Felgren, Mass, I love my boys, Toucher and Rich. They do it, but Greg Hill's show is great. I think the camaraderie that we have at the station, the personalities with Andy Hart and our producers, Chris Scheim, Lucy Burge. I mean, people that are behind the scenes, making themselves a part of the scene. And then, I mean, you have Jermaine Wiggins. And I think that, we do a really good job of mixing those guys in, and Fitzy, and him doing a lot of the digital stuff. It will get back to that. And it will, I'm sure that they'll continue to make, midday changes, afternoon changes, or whatever they figure that they're going to do.
I think,
but I honestly, when it comes down to it, I'm very proud to work for WEI because I think that the content is top notch.
And this is not, first of all, I think adding you and Fitzy was pretty huge for the company itself, because not only are you adding experience, you're adding followings, you're adding somebody's to a network in a way. That's the way I see it as an outsider, as a fan. And I respect WEI because guess what? Thanks to someone like Fitzy, I can actually come in the studio and I've been able to go on radio and have like a little learning experience through that.
That's how I know you, through him.
And that's how Sports Hub would just kick you to the curb. What I kind of want to throw out there and just, talking it out is, in what you see right now, are there anybody that you have on your radar in the younger generation that's on the come up? I keep promoting this thing called the Boston Youth Movement, And the reason for that is because there's a lot of these young, hungry kids that are coming out of college. They're trying to get their foots in the door. They might have podcasts. They might have a little something to bring to the table. I think that they eventually need to take over this Boston market. It has to eventually come here. I feel like, and again, this is a personal opinion, WEI is my grandfather's station. Like, that's just how the stigma in my mind is.
But you know what, though? They're willing to take a chance on someone who has less experience, i.e. me, although I don't. I worked on a national network and TV. I hadn't been on radio. I had never co-hosted a show, actually. And, they're able to throw me into the fire. And now I'm a part of this. I'm a part of the framework and the fabric of the station. So who would I say? I mean,
do you know anybody out there that's kind of like, that's on that you have an eye on, or that's somebody that like sticks out? Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I mean, I really like, in terms of women, I don't know about the men. I don't know. I don't listen. I mean, listen, if anyone out there wants to listen to their stuff, feel free. Send me a quick clip. Don't make it more than a minute. Otherwise, I'm not going to. I mean, I need a minute sample. I need to know if your delivery is on point. I need to know if your context is relative. If you're spitting out facts, if you're spitting out numbers. No, you want it to be verbose and to continue. I would say my friend started a all-female network, and she's really one of my best friends in LA. The Fangirl Sports Network, Tracy Sandler. Former neighbor, former great friend. She has the Patriots Fangirls. This girl, Brianna Pierre. She's more of a, she's just kind of up and coming. And I think that she's just more of a voice, for the fans. But she takes it very seriously. She takes her job very seriously. And she's pretty. So I've worked with her in the past. Yeah, I would say cool. There's a really awesome girl that works for NBC Sports Network and NBC 10. Her name is Kawani Lunis. She's really known as the Celtics girl. She's hustled, and I mean, now she left the sports network to go move over across the hall to NBC 10 so that she can start doing Instagram lives. And I mean, she is a hustler. She has reached out to people like Maria Taylor and Jamel Hill and wanted to interview them, and she's done features on them. I mean, that's what you have to do. And I think that it doesn't matter if I think someone is excuse me. I don't think if someone is the next best thing, they're going to have to put in the time and the work, because when I was coming up in this business, there were a couple of name brands that people believed would be household brands now, and now they're out of the business. And they, I don't know. I'm just going to get mad if I start talking about them. But, I never got recognized. Chad Finn's never mentioned my name in the Boston Globe. I was never mentioned in the Herald. No one ever wrote articles about me. You can't care. You have to keep going. Just because people don't recognize you, they know that you're smart. I mean, listen, your reputation precedes you. Put your stuff out there, and
do you see like a change within the next 5 years though? Because now in Boston sports,
yeah, absolutely.
We're coming,
like I said.
Yeah, we're coming off of Tom Brady and the Patriots. Now the Patriots can still be kicking ass and taking names. I completely understand
Patriots
that.
Will always be number one in the top.
But you're in the sports media market, and a lot of these older generation guys, I feel like are eventually going to start falling off a little bit. Do you think that there's just in the sense of there's going to be kind of openings in the next 5 years that these kids that are paying attention now should really try to work hard and look and put their mindset to it?
I honestly think the next big star is going to come from another market, and I think it's going to come out of the blue, and it's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yep.
That's just what I'm feeling. My gut, reading the tea leaves. I don't think anyone, if anyone has been, has blown out the water in terms of talent, I think they would have been put on TV already. I think that you're going to see the advent of NBC Sports Boston in their new. I was talking to them about they're making complete podcast studios with digital sets, and there's going to be an advent of the digital network, much like what Joy Taylor does. What she does with Caffeine, which is an FS1 affiliated show, her podcast. It is not, no one listens to her podcast. It is a digital show. She creates clips with digital. All the people that are coming out of Emerson that are that can create a platform or create graphics. It's testing everyone's creativity. And can I tell you that when I walked into this business 10 years ago, it has changed every 3 years in terms of what you want. You have to be a comedian. Yes, you do have to be a comedian. You have to be a chameleon and react. And I think that, eventually DEI will, maybe if I get a sponsor, I can launch my digital network for them, because that's the future. That is the future. Handheld news, information.
It's crazy. I want to go let's go off topic, not off topic, but a little overtime here because we've been an hour. You were talking about some of the older not too old, but first half of the dynasty for the New England Patriots. And there's one name that came to mind, and actually Ride the Wave, myself and Joe Stafford, we're going to write a little article about it soon. This individual, when I was at Ty Law's Hall of Fame weekend celebration, whatever, Rodney Harrison was getting selected to come in to the Patriots Hall of Fame. This one individual went up to the guy who runs the Pats Hall of Fame and had a couple choice words and says, why I feel so disrespected by the New England Patriots organization that my name should be part, or at least be a finalist, or should be in the Pats Hall of Fame, and that's Lawyer Malloy. Do you think Lawyer Malloy at all deserves a shot at being at the Patriots Hall of Fame? And I looked back on the finals for the.
I ran into Lawyer Malloy at the Super Bowl. Oh my God, I didn't even I was at the Super Bowl, at a Super Bowl pregame party, the massive one at the NFL. And I ran into Lawyer Malloy, and man, I almost cried, I swear. I said, oh my God, you are my Super Bowl hero. I can't believe I'm seeing you. It's the same thing. He's watching all of the other guys, come out. There are too many. Here's the matter of the fact. There are too many good players from the early 2000s to the mid 2010s. It might take him 7 or 8 years to get in, just based on how many, the pecking order. There's nothing wrong with not having, he will get in, and trust me, it will be fine. Everyone's going to get in. If it takes 15 years to do it, I don't think that they should change anything about the way that they put people into the Patriots Hall of Fame. What are we going to be, doubling up and putting 2 people in a year? Are we going to be nominating Mohamed Sanu to be in the Patriots Hall of Fame in 10 years because we ran out of good players? Who knows what this organization is going to look like in the next 2 decades? Yeah. So taking your time and being patient on it. And I think that that's just clout. That's someone who's being competitive, who I know that there's been a lot of articles about that day, and I'll never forget when he was traded away, traded to the Bills, or cut by the Patriots, and they lost 31-0, and then they flipped the switch at the end of the last game of the season. Lawyer Malloy is not disrespected by anyone, and I think that that's just, maybe he had a couple drinks, and I thought you were going to say something about Rodney Harrison too.
No. I think he was.
I've been hearing a lot of talk recently, at least from the people that my sources, the people in the industry, is saying that Rodney Harrison has really changed as a person, and his love and admiration for the Patriots organization has kind of gone sour in the last couple of years. And, he's not really writing glowing recommendations. And people don't understand it. So I thought you were going to say that.
No, I don't even know. I didn't even know that. I thought it was always just a true
No, you
Patriot
know.
that someone. Well, now I know the little whoop, little like Courtney bomb there. I think he was upset because Rodney Harrison got in before him, and the fact is Lloyd Malloy has never been a finalist in the last 10 years. Like his name's never touched it. So I think there's some sour grapes there.
Richard Seymour is going to Canton.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that he's going to the Patriots Hall of Fame.
Is he getting in Canton
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, he's eligible. So. He's eligible next year. And
I don't think he gets in. Well,
yes,
next year he's got to go against Calvin Johnson, Peyton Manning, and why can't I think he played?
You would be surprised he will be in Canton.
There's another one. I will be surprised then. I will. I just think it took Ty Law a long time. It took him 3 tries just to get in. Ty Law, and he was one of the last people.
Ty Law, and I mean, Rodney Harrison was one of the most ferocious, one of the best draft picks that Bill Belichick ever had, and one of the most impactful defensive linemen, not only the Patriots, but in the NFL in his time. So we'll see. We'll see about that.
Can we talk a little bit about Rob Gronkowski? And
what about?
Well, the last couple days since the MJ doc came out, and they're kind of comparing the last dance of the Patriots and how Michael Jordan, they said, if we had one more year to put it all together, we could put the championship team together. They kind of had one more year, and that was last year. Do you think that if Rob Gronkowski did play last year, they would have won the Super Bowl?
No, not at all. I don't even think that Rob Gronkowski is going to play a full season on the field in Tampa. I think his body has changed, and he's still going to play football the same, and that's running through people. That is why he is so susceptible to injury. I mean, he's a phenomenal first ballot Hall of Fame tight end. I don't think that would have happened at all. I think it would have been, I don't think so. I think the Patriots, that was a kind of a minuscule, flaw of this Patriots team. I think there was a lot more that was wrong besides the offense. I think people are kind of jaded and shaded by the fact that, oh my God, they ran out of options at the end of the year, and who's Jacoby Myers, and where did Philip Dorsett go, and now he's scorned, and there was no running game, and they benched Damian Williams, and I mean, like, there was a lot of problems wrong with that defense and the rush defense, and being able to put pressure and how talented the linebackers were. It seemed like they were running out of steam, and, good luck to Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins. But, I think that there were a lot more issues besides losing a tight end. But you have to say, Rob Gronkowski kind of was the whistleblower to say, even back in 2018, this isn't fun anymore. Football's not fun anymore. And he convinced Tom Brady of it as well. I believe he is the de facto reason that we started the mass exodus of the New England Patriots, and it eventually turned the relationships that Tom Brady had with the coaching staff and Josh McDaniels, and, kind of having to put the bug and the whisper in his ear and say, this is not fun anymore. And, all of a sudden Tom said, you know what, it's wrong. And my wife is upset, and I'm being taken away, and he's not putting my input and my thoughts, and I want to promote this product. I mean, like, there needed to be a time and a place and to separate, and I don't even believe that the Bulls would have won in 1999. Even if they did, I think that, they struck with irons hot. Tom Brady should have left right after they won the last Super Bowl.
You're not blaming Belichick, though, in terms of the team not having fun, right? Because that's the strict person you need to have. You need to have something like that, correct?
No. Bill Belichick is the mastermind. He is the Pat Riley. He's the architect. And I think that there is no doubt in my mind that when there are odds that Bill Belichick will be coach of the year, I fully believe that. I fully believe that there is a common thread of all of the players that they drafted in this year's draft. The common thread is versatility, intelligence, body builds. He is literally, I mean, a lot of people say, Tom Curran's giving them an F for their draft. Well, guess what? I know that Bill has a system in place, and he's got a plan. You don't think that Bill was sitting there and didn't have a plan to say, oh, wait, let me think. Am I surprised that Tom left? He had a plan, and he was thinking about this in the middle of last season. I'm telling you, like, don't discredit this man and what he's capable of doing, because I don't think he is the rhyme or the reason for anything that's gone wrong, has gone awry, or has been, is completely overly successful. I think it's a team effort, but it starts with him.
You said that Tom Curran gave him an F for drafting. Do you think that reporters in the Boston media purposely kind of give the Patriots bad grades or purposely put them down? I know it's more of like, hey, we're not trying to be biased and always say, oh, they're the best team, we have to be real. But do you sometimes think they put the extra little knife in the back so it gets motivation out of that team at all? Or does that never happen?
The only person that does that, and he takes a page from Dan Shaughnessy, is Ben Ballin. But Ben Ballin welcomes it. It's always been his shtick. I warned him when he left the Palm Beach Post when I was in Miami. I said, it is not a nice place up there. I'm just warning you. He got torn down the first year, and then he said, hey, listen, I found my niche. I know what I want. I think that he's really the only person that does that type of stuff. Tom Curran is, you want to talk about long-standing reporters. I have the utmost respect for Tom Curran. He has been covering that team since the 90s. Mike Felger has been covering that Patriots team in the 90s. Mike Felger, you forget, was the Patriots beat reporter for the Boston Herald years ago. I mean, when you cover and you watch a team with the framework and just the chain of command and how little that's changed over the last few years, there's no one that's going to be overcritical. I think that there is still a lot of positivity, and I think nowadays it changes. No one's writing, front page news for the Boston Globe in the sports section. It doesn't come out like that. It's a lot of blogs. You have to decipher between what is vetted and what's unvetted, and I think a lot of it too is just, it's just hypotheticals. It's just your opinion. It's opinion based, and it's throwing it out there and seeing if anyone else agrees with you. I don't think anyone does anything maliciously, unless you're Mike Felger and you're trying to drive a radio broadcast. That's the only one. He's brilliant, though. I mean, he's beyond.
It works. It's the little puppets. He's got you in the string. Patrick Chung signed an extension with the Patriots today. Yes. What's your thoughts about that?
Listen, I got murdered by the Carolina Panthers fan base. Is just the lowest of the low. When I have to call out a fan base and tell them that they suck, I have been verbally attacked by them on 3 different occasions when I was a reporter. I have witnessed the disrespect. Cam Newton has disrespected me in a locker room. He's disrespected other women in a locker room. When I said flat out, Cam Newton is not the character that you want in your locker room to rebuild. Okay. And when I said character issues, they thought it was racist, which is crazy to me. I don't understand. But what I meant is this team needs leadership. You lost Rob Gronkowski. You lost Kyle Van Noy. You could or could not lose Dante Hightower in the next 2 years. You have Gilly Lock, who's a quiet leader. You lost so many people. There is a reason that they brought back Matthew Slater first and foremost. I mean, that was a priority in the offseason. There was a reason that they brought back the McCourty twins. Continuity, maturity, leadership in the locker room, drafting a safety in Kyle Duggar, who I believe that this kid's going to play more off the cuff than you think. I mean, do not put him aside. He is not going to be redshirting at all. Because as I was talking to a couple people today, the fact that they re-signed, that age, the Patriots are the oldest team in the NFL, and especially in that secondary, they're going to be looking at that matchup of those young, hot, speed burner, yards after catch kids. They faced about 5 of them. I think we talked about it in our IG Live. They faced about 5 of them during the season. That's going to be a point of contention for a lot of teams. Hey, let's throw this 23-year-old against these grandpas in the back, and they're playing free safety. I think Patrick Chung at one point a couple of years ago, 2016, 2017, I was told by someone in the organization that Patrick Chung was the most important player in that secondary, hands down. It kind of shocked me. I didn't understand, but the cogs run through him. He is a lot more important than a lot of people think. And although that he is not really so much the outspoken one, he will, they will grandfather and they will hand down this offense to the young players and leave them in good standing. I have absolutely no issue with this. Yeah. I think it's fantastic.
Again, it's a veteran leader that you want to keep on that team. And the Patriots have the right pieces. Yes, they are in a rebuild year, but they're also a competitive team. Belichick has said it himself. We're going to compete every single Sunday. We're going to compete every single game. But they have these new young guns that are going to come up to be the future of the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. But they still have their veteran Super Bowl vets that are still there that can teach these guys. The Patriots are in a very good spot. They are. A lot of unknown, and I get that. A lot of unknown when it comes to the offense and how they're going to look. Their defense is exactly the same. I don't see the defense being a step below. If anything, I was going to try to say
I think a lot of Chase Winovich has to find, I think he's more of like, I don't think he's more of an edge rusher. I think, he's more of an inside linebacker. I think they need to figure out, the front.
I was just going to say, I think Belichick lost that locker room last year. I think Belichick lost that defense last year. I think the boogeyman mantra, which was fun for fans, is something that Belichick does not want.
They hated the boogeyman thing. That was driven by Mike Reese and the fans. And I think,
and it gets to the head. And guess who are two of those guys that are important to the boogeyman? Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins. See you later, pal. We don't want that. We want this as a team. And I think that what's going to be very important, Courtney, is Brady was the team. Yes, he's the number one guy. It's all through Tom Brady. There is no Tom Brady. Yeah, you could say Julian Edelman's the face, and I don't think Julian Edelman's going to even accept that role. He's a team player as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how the team comes together. It's a very team-oriented, and that's what I like. That's what I like about this. We got to wrap this up. Courtney, any last thoughts you want to talk about at all? It's your time to shine.
I just got to say thank you so much to everyone who has took the time to listen, whether you listened to 5 minutes, whether you listened to 20 minutes. Listen, I speak from the heart, and what I got to say, my last piece of advice to any of you that are in the media, there is nothing that is off the record. Off the record, you're talking to someone, you walk into a room, you're talking to this insider, that insider, you get too drunk, you talk about this, or something spills. There is nothing ever off the record, period, in journalism. It is always on the record. You are always being watched. So speak and think carefully.
Yeah. Whether you tweet it, whether you Facebook it, whether you IG it, whether
even in a light situation, even getting coffee with, I got coffee with one of my friends. He's an insider for ESPN. I thinking about things that I'm saying, or, someone wants to gossip about other reporters and this and that in situations. Be careful. It comes back to you.
Circling back around, think about how you said earlier that everyone wants to trip you up and they want to backstab you. You can't trust anybody. Those people that you think that you can trust are going to be conniving, and they're going to try to get something out of you, so that the fact is they can take something lighthearted, they can report on it and say, well, Courtney Fallon said this.
In your words.
Courtney said that. Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we appreciate you coming on, Courtney, to having this little one-on-one time. I think this was very educational for those out there, insightful for those out there, and I hope that people take your words very meaningful. I'm interested to see what are your personal goals in the next 5 years. I forgot to ask you that, and we'll end it on that.
I really would love to work for some sort of a role with NBC Sports Network. I really have my eyes and my sights set on them. I think that they're a fantastic organization. I worked for an NBC O&O in Miami. And just elevating to the fact that they work with the NBC programming at Fallon Tonight. They cover the Olympics. They cover Sunday Night Football. They have more of an opportunity to create long-form storytelling. That's where I want to be. I would say continuing a role as a female in the radio industry, but also creating some sort of a role in a national level. Again, I'm not done.
Yeah. It's not a career that just you hang it up like an athlete after you're 33,
listen, there's certain people, there's a lot of girls that, will say, hey, I want to get married. And I don't, I just don't see that in the cards, at least for me, for a couple years, because I'm not done. I'm nowhere done. So.
And isn't that kind of tough though? Like on a personal level of like, you
No.
have to decide a career or like, taking a step back now. Yeah.
I've
You just
never.
keep doing it. You just
I've
keep
known,
being a beast.
I've known what I want to do for, from day one. So it's no different. It's,
Again,
it's like, listen, hustle and hard work, that's innate. I mean, the fact that, it's you either have it or you don't. Your work drive,
always be that's what I hate about today's generation, is that people think things are just handed to them and you actually have to work for it. You need work ethic, and that's what's lacking from
work ethic and good luck, I gotta say.
Yeah. I mean, I always say luck is for losers, but it is like timing. I say it's
You need
timing.
a break, man. I'm telling
Yeah,
you. They're starting a network and this random chick gets hired. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had that situation happen. I'm like, how the hell did she get that job? Timing.
I think it's timing, because like I was going to work the other night at Mass General and I'm walking through and I was super late, and I'm walking in and someone comes up to me and goes, "You just missed Jonathan Kraft. He was just here 30 seconds ago."
Gosh.
He's like, and he was here for 20 minutes. Now, if you came in a little early, I would have got to see Jonathan Kraft. It's timing. It's always timing like that. Instagram, Courtney underscore Fallon. Twitter, Courtney Fallon _. Just to put that there. We appreciate it again. Courtney Fallon, you can see her on WEEI. Make sure you do a quick Google search. And the awesome too is that you have a little reel as well too. I think that was important.
You can watch my NFL Network reel, which is probably one of the first things that comes up on Instagram or on Google search.
And that's important for someone that's trying to build a resume and portfolio to have a reel. That's why I like to do if you have blogs, have that stuff there saved for the public to see. That way when you can give it out to people and put your resume out there. Yeah. Courtney, again, we appreciate it so much. This was episode 57, Boston's Big Three, presented by Ride the Wave Media. Peace.
Thank you.